Hello, MBL fans and coaches alike. We're back with another waiver focus for our Masters Battle League. This will be episode 2. The other updates are not really episodes, as they're not full-lengthers. But that being said, this one it will be our second episode. We've just completed our first week of matches. There are still some being having to be played still, maybe because they're out of town. Just timing didn't work, and so we want to make sure we give them enough time. But I could not wait to get this next episode out because it's a doozy, and I think y'all will enjoy it. Hi, my name is Nathaniel Shook. I am the coach of Saffron City SC. FC, can't remember which one it is. I'm also the MBL commissioner. I am playing, but there's a couple of checks and balances, so I'm able to actually play and still be able to head up the actual Pokemon League. And so we're coming right back at it with another waiver focus, similar to the Fantasy Focus Hour for the ESPN. This is where we give you an inside look at what's available on waivers, what Pokemon would be good for certain build types and teams, and what, honestly, after the first week, what kind of is the metagame? And how can we structure our team around that metagame with the Pokemon that are available? And so as you see on your screen right now, we have counter picks. Yes, counter picks. For those of you who will watch the matches when they do go up, this is primarily for the coaches, at least for this episode. One thing you'll notice is that a lot of bulky water types are running the metagame right now. It just is. I think probably the biggest threat to an example of bulky water metagame is obviously Toxapex. I mean, you have the #1 team who is undefeated now in the Masters Battle League with Cerulean City Athletic Club, coached by James, and this dude is a monster. Not the Pokemon he picked. I mean, those are monsters, yes, but how he's using those Pokemon are absolutely ridiculous, and it caught me off guard. The circuitry, even though he's slow, he's still hitting like a truck. And you really can't come at it from a, I can use ground type. For Toxapex, just Earthquake or Earth Power if I have enough. Fun fact, Toxapex is special defense is actually lower, I think base 142 with his defense being 152. So it might be worth your while to build it special attacker. But that's obviously up to the coach and how they want to do things. But that's the biggest example. Is Toxapex is probably like the epitome of the metagame for the Masters Battle League. Aside from that, you have Slowking, you have Suicune, which did massive work for Celadon City and their whole team with Rain that they actually transferred into. Didn't get to see a lot of Tapu Fini. I kind of wanted to see where that was going to go. We didn't see a lot of that, but that's still a threat nonetheless. We even saw Gyarados, which is a bulky kind of setup Dragon Dance Sweeper. So there's a lot of Watermons that are out there that just cannot die and will not die, and I think that's the biggest problem we're having with a lot of our teams is they can't really counteract that at all. And in fact, I don't think I ever saw this Salazzle in play from Cerulean City Athletic Club at one game. Let's see if I can pull up the stats here because they're wild, man. These things are absolutely insane, and I wish I could show you everything here because some of the stuff is absolutely insane what we're seeing here. But yeah, so if I'm pulling up, you're gonna see a lot of bulky water types, and I'll list them. So Slowking is a huge one. We didn't see any Greninja sets that were worthwhile to say, oh yeah, water types are ruling the entire metagame, because they're not. They're really not. It's these bulky sets, and honestly, the metagame now is wall install. It's wall install, whether you like it or not. That's just the way it is. Ooh, someone just messaged me. Ooh. Yeah, we got Toxapex. We also got Tentacruel was a big one for Pallet Town as it helped out a lot with some of the late game setups. It was really good. Let's see what else we have here. There's not really a lot of other water types besides the Tapu Fini, the Toxapex, the Suicune. Didn't see Vaporeon from Celadon either, which was kind of interesting. We did see Empoleon, and this thing freaking won't die. It just won't die. We didn't see any other Starmies, and Alola was not taken. But that being said, the ones we did mention, I think the big pivotal ones, and Toxapex and Slowking are probably the biggest ones. So what I've looked at is grass mons, and you'll see it right here on your screen. There's a lot of counter picks, and they're all grass types because we have to counteract water type, because it's not just like, hey, pack electric types and just hit them, because there are ways around it. And what's frustrating is a lot of these big bulky water types have dual typing. You have Seismic on Celadon and then Quagsire on Pewter City, both water ground. You can't hit that. Electric's not going to work, and it's easy to switch into, and it's predictable. And so the one thing that I've noticed is that you have to really catch someone off switching based on a coverage grass move, or you have a grass spawn that can wall that water mon out. Tangrowth is a perfect example, and this is why I think, honestly, even though they might have struggled with a 4-3 record so far right now after week 1, is that Cinnabar Island is really in a good position with Tangrowth and the Slowking. And I want to see more of that, being worked on, because Tangrowth is an amazing assault vester, knows knockoff, and can just wall you out, and it knows regenerator. And so when we talk about the wall install, we're also looking at the regenerator cores that are also there and running amok. And honestly, Toxapex again is the epitome of this metagame right now for the MBL, and so we got to find a way to counteract. So a couple ones you see here is Shaman. It's natural, it's a Pixie-mon, it's 100 base stats across the board, but this thing is bulky and it has access to moves that are very have niche. That's the right word, and that's not the way to pronounce it. I'm not sure, but it's something that you can run it with flying moves, a lot of grass moves. You can't use Skyform. I want to make that very clear. Skyform is banned in this draft league, so you can't use that. So it's one of like the lower tier of the grass spawns you're looking at on the screen. Delmise. Delmise is interesting because it's a ghost and a grass type, so it's gonna get wrecked by a lot of psychic. We're just gonna be honest with you. We got Alakazam, and you even have Slowking, which again is a huge threat with Latios. You also have Azelf that's hanging around there, Reuniclus, and so Delmise is kind of one of those ones where like, I'm not sure you should. But that being said, this thing has an ability where I'm not sure what it's called, but it acts as if steel type moves are stab. Now this is huge, especially when you're trying to wall out a really thick like water mod, because if you got Tapu Fini, you come in there and just blast it. If you got a water mod, don't worry, you have access to grass moves and their stab. Oh, it might switch into a psychic type. Well, you have the ability to hit a ghost type. You also have Palatown, who's running Blacephalon. You have the ability to catch it off guard too. So there's multiple things you can do with Delmise. Now that being said, would I pick Delmise over Shaman? I probably pick Shaman first. Delmise is kind of a risky play. It's very slow. It's a physical end, and that's where the issue is. That though physical mods are going to really do work on a lot of these like a Slowking, like a Tapu Fini. Toxapex you need Special D, and it's got burn. It's got access to Scald, which can burn you, and now all of a sudden it becomes a physical mod with special defense investment. So you gotta like play it right, and I think that's where the problem is. You either gotta set up on Toxapex, run a fast ground type that can OHKO it, or run a grass type that can resist it, and that's where everything else kind of comes into play. You have then Rotom Mo is great because it has access to Volt Switch and also some other grass moves, so it gives you both coverages of, say, okay, I need to hit it with a Thunderbolt or a Volt Switch, or I need to hit it with a grass move in Leaf Storm. I think it Leaf Storm, I'm not sure either, one of the two. So you have access to both coverages that you can use to your advantage, and it's not bad. And again, this is all forming around the metagame, so these are counter picks, they're not necessarily value picks for your team, but if you're having problems with these bulky water types, Rotom is not a bad option. And again, if comparing it to Delmise, Shaman, and Rotom, if you're comparing all these things, they're all kind of in this weird, like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see how they fit in, I can kind of see how they work, but it's really hard to kind of put them into a solid team and make them run. Delmise I've seen work on a couple times. Shaman's not bad, but typically going to be ran in a more of a physical manner. And then Rotom I haven't seen a lot of. I'll be completely honest with you, I haven't seen a lot of, but again, this is a new draft league, and so the competency but also competitive level of the league is going to be far less than what we see in, like, again, other Pokemon leagues across the US. So this one, Rotom might have a little bit of a spot for someone on their team and really impact their team drastically upon picking them up and claiming them. Next, you're going to see this Sceptile. Now, we're going to talk more about Sceptile later in the actual episode, because this is like a big thing for me. It's pure grass, so you're going to have problems with Toxapex with, like, say, poison type moves. You're going to have issues, with ice. I mean, it's just going to be there. And a lot of water mons, especially like Suicune and other ones, have access to Ice Beam, so that's something you have to deal with. And a lot of these grass Pokemon are going to have problems with that. So you want to be careful not drafting a mon that's going to have like a 4 times weakness to grass. Like, we don't want that. Torterra seems great. Oh my gosh, ground and grass. But then you get the 4 times weakness to ice. There's other mons out there that will have that 4 times weakness to ice, and it's just not worth it. I mean, you can stop at the 2 times, but I mean, I wouldn't go any farther than that. I think when you hit 4 times, you're defeating the purpose while you're picking them up anyways. And that's where kind of the dispute is. But one thing about Sceptile is he's got base 120 speed, hits like a truck on the special side, not the physical side. The downside is coverage boost, and we'll talk more about that later on. Next, we also have Executor. Executor is insane on paper. And the fact that he's got natural bulk, doesn't have regenerate, but doesn't need it. Especially against the Toxapex. Poison types are weak to Psychic, and then you attack on with the Grass type, it should wall out Toxapex. It's just how you run him and how you use him. And again, Toxapex has great typing and great move pull for that wall. But again, you also have to realize that you're also playing against the coach here, the trainer, the person who's battling him. So yeah, the Pokemon might be good, but if it's not in that right hands of a right trainer, it's going to be ineffective. So James has done a really good job of preventing people from coming in on that, especially when you have Sizer involved and you have other people, and so it's really hard. And if you transition over to Celadon City, this is where we get a little bit different, where it's a not as competitive player, has the means to wall people out, especially with Tornadus, who is just pure flying, which Grass does not appreciate and is weak to. And so if she switches in on that, it's okay. And so there's means around. There's a way to get around kind of these weaknesses and kind of holes in teams based off certain typing and how you use it. But if you're catching someone off guard, and that's the whole part, like when you pick these waiver claims up, you're assuming you're going to be using them effectively to the point where you're going to catch someone off guard. And Executor should resist almost all of what Toxapex is doing, almost all of what Suicune is doing, almost all of what Tapu Fini is doing, and other water mons like Slowking. What can Slowking do? It has access to what? Flamethrower? Which could, yes, be effective, but it isn't stab, and if you build it right, and you predict well, you can do a lot of things with this. So that's why it also has access to powders, which is great, and so that's also a huge asset. And lastly, you have Venusaur. Don't need to talk to you too much about this. Chlorophyll, synthesis, all that good stuff. It's grass and poison. Again, it's going to resist a lot of poison type moves. It has the ability to knock out fairy types, which is going to be more prominent on other teams, such as like Fuchsia City, which I believe I spelled the name wrong. We're going to ignore that. We're just going to keep rolling through it. but like the Tapu Fini, Mimikyu, Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko might have an easier time of taking him out with HP Fire or HP Ground or HP Psychic for even. But the reality is a lot of fairy types aren't going to appreciate Venusaur, especially if you build them well, in which we're going to go into how you build them, because my top 2 ones I want to focus on is Sceptile and and Venusaur. We'll start with Sceptile first. I was going to try to get him later, but we're going to hit him now. Sceptile. So if you look here, HP's not great. Defense is not great. This isn't someone you're going to put in to take a shot. It's just not you're just not going to do it. This one is meant for Focus Blast, Dragon Pulse, what is it? Leaf Storm, and then you tack on something else for coverage or even a status thing. Typically that's going to be the set you're going to run for a Mega Sceptile, but it still works here with decent coverage. It will hit huge tank options like Steel Mons with Focus Blast, which is going to have an issue. Which you'll have an issue with. It'll have Leaf Storm to take out pesky water types, and this thing hits like a truck at 105 special attack, and you don't need it any a lot. You can speed creep with this thing with base 120 speed, faster than Gengar. It's 10 under Alakazam, 10 under Tapu Koko. So this will be one of the faster mons on the actual draft league. It'll be one of the faster mons. It's just how can I use this? How can I make sure I preserve it? How do I make sure it doesn't get poisoned? How can I make sure it doesn't get paralyzed? And I think that's the biggest part is here. You don't want this thing to get paralyzed, and so you want to be mindful of how you're using it, because it can easily turn into a horrible situation if you're using Sceptile. I personally love him. Favorite Gen 3 starter I mean, Gen 3 is really good. Home is awesome, but Subtile is definitely one you want to look at. Remember, it is grass, and so if you're going up against, say, a Toxapex again, I'm sorry, James, but it's just the meta right now. If you're going up against anyone who has poison, it's going to be a bad time, and it won't be able to take shots. And so you got to be able to either put a Focus Sash on it. If you have the speed, you can run Choice Specs on it. You can run Life Orb if you want to make sure you want to just boost all the attacks. And if you don't want to lose life, you can always run Expert Belt. Expert Belt will always work. So that's not a bad option. I'm not taking it off the table. Just be mindful of the team you're going up against, and this has to be specialized. The Sceptile has to be in a team that's going to appreciate it. And if you can't find that team, it's going to be real hard. But I will say this is definitely a Mon that will kind of force the opponent's hand and really put the attack pressure on it. You go on the offensive automatically if used correctly. If you use it just whimsically or whatever you call it, this thing's gonna die. It's gonna die as fast as you possibly can. So how do we? So if I can't get Sceptile, if I can't know how to use Sceptile, then what is the next best thing? Well, the next best thing is actually a really big thing, and which is the Venusaur. Venusaur is huge. Grass Poison, great typing, especially if you're against water types. Specifically, you want to kind of avoid ground types a lot. You want to avoid psychic types. But that being said, with psychic types, you can wall stuff out with this thing still. It's not in the Mega, so remember, Megas aren't allowed in this format for us right now. Maybe later as we get through more seasons in the MBL. But right off the get-go, it's got a whopping 100 base special defense, but it doesn't seem a lot. I understand that, as Pixies will have this as well. But given this typing and what you're going to be using it for, it isn't bad. In fact, it's probably fine. You have access to Synthesis. You have all like Sleep Power, Poison Power. You can Paralyze Powder, whatever. I can't remember what it's called. You have Synthesis. You have Giga Drain. So this thing can just sit there and take shots. In all honesty, and you can learn a plethora of different moves that can be beneficial to walling out your water types. It can't get poison. It's got poison types. So if you're trying to Toxic, I think the difference is if you're facing like a Salazzle who has Corrosion, who's able to poison you, but typically speaking, no other mon's gonna be able to really touch you when it comes to Toxic. So you don't have to worry about that. And I think that's a benefit. And I always implore people to put someone to sleep. If you got a mon that is wrecking your world, put them to sleep. Effectively take them out of the game, so that the opponent has to run a berry to like Chesto berry, or he has to just wait out those turns. It gives you the advantage to gain more health, and be able to set up like Leech Seed or other stuff that you can run on Venusaur. Venusaur is a great counter pick, and I would almost argue it's a great value pick. And so it kind of runs kind of in the middle where it's a counter pick, it's also a value pick. So if you're looking for a grass mon, you desperately need one, because a lot of the more bulky grass types are kind of gone. This is the one for you. Venusaur is a huge pickup, especially as we go into the second week. If you really need that grass type, and you need something just to counteract all the water, because it's hard, guys. It's hard. It's really hard. So that leads us to our next subject: value picks. Value picks. And so you'll know there's some reoccurring ones, and I'll just get those out of the way. Why has no one drafted Among Us? I didn't include him in the in like the grass counter picks because it doesn't need to be a counter pick. It's good the way it is. It's good the way it is. And Among Us has Regenerator, it's grass and poison. You got three of the main things that are needed right now, and no one's drafting them. No one's claimed them. Sorry, that's what I meant. And it's very frustrating. I would, but the issue is my team doesn't need that right now. I have Virizion, so that's not what I'm looking for. I have that grass bulk, and I also have the means to go on the attacker, and I have Reuniclus with Regenerator. So it's not needed for me. However, that being said, Among Us is great for support and utility role. And so if you're lacking utility, that is a huge pickup. So I'm looking at specifically with teams that need some more support here. You could look at Viridian might need the utility. You could even look at, honestly, Pallet Town could actually really use this, not in the sense that they need a grass type or they need a more utility type of mon, because they have a plethora of different options they can go into. but it also adds a second regenerator mon, and so you're kind of matching up with Cinnabar a little bit. Tangrowth is probably the better option in this type of a draft league format, given the competition that's going on. But Among Us is definitely something you should look into, especially if you're trying to wall out and just kind of wear down another team. Because we did see Palatine use a great deal of hazards, and they did it well. And so they might be something they need to look at. You also have Lavender Town, who needs utility. You could run Steelix and Stack Attack all day. The reality is it's going to be really hard moving forward if you have, one, horrible speed tiers and people that can just blown up for special defense. So look towards Among Us. Like, it's a good draft pick. It's a good claim, and you should really look at it. Stats are, but that's the point. It's meant for regenerator. It's meant for utility purposes. It's meant to just absolutely wear a team down to the point where the opponent gets frustrated and they make a kind of irrational move, and that puts you in a good situation to benefit from. Next, you also see returning is Darmanitan. Base 140 attack. Enough said. Like, Flare Blitz, you can scarf it, and it hits like a truck. If you don't have a pure fire type that can learn both fire and fighting moves, pick Darmanitan. It's really good. If you really need the fire type and you're looking, if you're in the market for a fire type, he's a great value pick. That's still in the upper part of the draft table from I think March 2nd when we drafted. He's not bad. He is hard to use on occasion because, again, the speed tier is ungodly slow, but you can use like a sub bulk up set with Drain Punch. I believe he learns it. I'm not sure if he learns Drain Punch. Don't quote me on that. They also got Flare Blitz as well. So there's a multiple ways you can use Darmanitan. You can again use him as Twist Scarf, or if you can take a hit and you run a bulky, you can run Choice Banded. Doesn't matter. Just you gotta use him effectively. But this guy wrecks. So go back up at the top of the list. Another fire type, fire type. So if you don't want to use Darmanitan and you're really scared to use him, Entei is the way to go. As it does learn access to Flare Blitz, it can go, I believe, mainly physical, but also it has extreme speed, which is like stupid good for priority purposes. And if you're looking for a fast, hard-hitting fire type, Entei is it. It's very basic in use. How you spec it with not spec it, but how you kind of distribute the EVs is up to you depending on the matchup you're having. But this is the main draw of this is that you have E-speed, you have extreme speed, which has priority, and you can revenge kill fairly easy with Entei as long as you're wearing down the other team and you're in post your shots carefully. This thing does not appreciate stealth rocks though, so you have to remember going into the match that if the person has stealth rocks, you're gonna have to play around that. Make sure to have a rapid spinner with any fire type, whether that be Darmanitan or Entei, or any fire type for that matter. Even if they have like a fighting secondary, or especially a flying fire thing, or any type of flying mon, you want to make sure you want to build around a team that can like effectively get hazards off the field. And to get hazards off the field, what's a good mon, since we're losing a lot of rapid spinners and defoggers, Shiftry. And Shiftry is a weird one where I wouldn't necessarily suggest it to everybody. But if you need a defogger to get those things out, that's it. If you need a mon that is not really fast, but it's a dark type to block out Prankster, there's your mon. If you need a grass mon to hit hard on water types, there's your mon. If you need someone that knows knockoff that can hit with stab, Shiftry is the one for you. You just have to use it effectively. It loves to be under the sun. So if you're trying to transition to more of a fire team or a sunny day team, and you want to pick up like a Ninetales with it, you can run Entei. I'd probably want to stay away from too many fire types, but I would probably stick this with anyone who can learn sunny day, or at least can support you in it. And then Shiftry starts to blow up. Knockoff's a great utility move to get items off. Defog is to get the hazards away, and then I think it's Leaf Storm or some other, I think maybe Leaf Blade, which hits like a truck. And they're both dual stab, and has a lot of other utility that you can use. So Shiftry's not bad. I would say out of the whole entire list, probably the weakest one out of the group. I probably wouldn't pick him right off the gate, especially if there's like a Venusaur that's still available. I would pick him up in a heartbeat. Given the amount of psychic types in the league, though, Shiftry would be a very dangerous one, as it can be fast. It can be. I don't know if it learns Sucker Punch. I think it might, so I would double check on that. But if it learns Sucker Punch, then it starts to go up a little bit more in like value, because then gets priority. And if you can read, say like an Alakazam, Slowking, you have the ability to, if you're running low on HP, to hit him with a super effective Sucker Punch, And then if you're able to outspeed, hit him with like a leaf blade, and then so it works. Shift tree is not bad for what's there right now. Again, you guys have to be really careful. Shift tree is meant for those players who know how to work it or have a team that can benefit from a knockoff sucker punch type of guy who blocks, pranks your sets, and all that other stuff. And again, if you're running a Sunny Day team or want to try to expand on and get a Sunny Day team, that's perfect. Lastly, a zoom rule. So if you can't beat him, join him. So thick, fat, huge power, which are the two probably the biggest things. Those sap sippers, so it's immune to grass moves. So if you want to run that thing is a beast. It's a fairy water typing. You can learn belly drum, and with the berry, you can gain all that HP back up, and you're hitting with plus ×4 attack with aqua jet or play rough. So this thing is like, don't sleep on it. I think I checked. I don't think anyone has a zoom roll, which is very surprising. I know for those lacking in fairy types that need a fairy type to hit, that's not bad. And I would pick up a zoom roll, especially if you need a water type, especially if you need a very game-changing fairy type that can hit like a truck with a belly drum. It is very predictable, so people know when it comes out, okay, it's one of two things. It's either thick fat or it's huge power, and the moment you lay up the belly drum, I'm more than certain that people are going to be prepping for that. So they're not going to be surprised if they see a belly drum. In fact, I would almost say they're expecting a belly drum huge power set. Thick fat would be one of those ones where it catches them off guard, but it's not too stressful to deal with entirely. So but this thing packs massive power, and if you sleep on this thing, your team is going to get swept. And if you can't counteract what it's thrown at you, especially with a 4x attack after a belly drum with a berry, like a citrus or whatnot, dude, just get out. Just get out. You have to have priority on this thing, or you have to be able to burn it in some way or shape or form. So a zoom roll is something that I would look into. This thing is great, and if you're looking for value, especially this late in the league as we're going on in the second half and are about to hit playoffs, this thing will definitely be a game changer for any team that desperately needs that. Teams that need a physical mon, Viridian needs a physical mon. They just need it bad. A lot of them are special attackers, which have, the Gengar's been destroying people. It's been hitting. It blew up an Arcanine, and which typically it should blow up an Arcanine, but it's blown up Mons, OHKOing it. Viridian's been running it with the choice specs, which is disgusting. As I would assume, it's either running Choice Scarf or Focus Sash, so it can take a hit and live and hit another time with a Destiny Bond stuck on there, which is a good set. But it's taking names. It has a lot of deaths, and if I'm looking here correctly, right now, because again there's still matches to be played. Yeah, Gengar has 5 kills, which is it's tied for the lead. What is it? Tied for the lead in kills next to Latias and Electros for Viridian. So the usage is there. It's died 6 times, but again, Viridians bring it to almost every fight, and for good reasons. So a zoom roll is great for that team, and a little bit of physicality. I would keep Greninja on Lavender Town unless you want to transition to a zoom roll. I would probably stick with Greninja, as you can run it physical and you can run it special. You lose out on the physical kind of draw if you don't have Protean. Like, if you don't have Protean, the physical Greninja's kind of So you could run a zoom roll, but Greninja's special attack is insane, and Lavender Town needs a special sweeper, so you can run that. Saffron, for me, I could use that, as I don't really have a strong Watermon, and so that's something I could use, especially with physicality, as I don't have a lot of physical mons that can hit like a truck. That would not be bad. It wouldn't. You also have, not to mention, you also have Celadon, which they can just stack on the rain team and boost those water moves, which is great. But again, I don't think they want to lose the ground typing with Seismitoad, so it's kind of like an type of moment. And then lastly, Vermilion, you can always pick this up. It's great. Actually, you can switch Zoom Roll out for Kingdra on Pewter, which would be good. Again, it doesn't appreciate sand. It needs water if you're going to run weather, and it cannot be in the sun. It cannot be in the sand. We want to be able to retain as much life as we possibly can to get as many Aqua Jets off or Play Roughs as we possibly can when you use Zoom Rolls. So just keep that in mind next time. Okay, so we're going to keep moving on to our sleeper pick of the week, and going on the same trend with fairies, it is Gardevoir. This thing is Psychic Fairy, and this thing hits like a truck, can wall out anyone that was Moonblast or Power. It's like you're having a Clefable, but it has Synchronized. So if you're trying to Toxicate Sucks to Suck, it's going to transfer that over to you. I don't know if it knows Trace. I think that's this Mega Form, but don't quote me on that either. But the typing here is really solid. Since Tapu Lele is not allowed in Draft League format, this thing is the next best option if you're trying to get that Psychic Fairy typing. And so this is huge for any team that's having a struggle with utilizing their Fairymon or utilizing Psychic Mon. So Saffron is a big one that can use it. Other ones we would include probably, honestly... Yeah, I would say Viridian. I would swap out Togekiss is different though, so I might not do that. But it's kind of a rare, not rare. It's hard to fit in sometimes because you don't want to take away your fairy. What would be good is actually if you look at a Fuchsia, dropping Florges and putting Gardevoir in for utility. But the difference is, and you guys hear this more in the episodes to come for the Blitz, is that Florges is now. I'm assuming is the number one. I'm trying to look here. Number 3 on the leaderboard. Yeah, on the leaderboard for the MBL, for the Masters Battle League. As it is 7 kills and 1 death. So maybe Fuchsia City doesn't want to do that. I don't know. But this is a mod not to sleep on, as you can do many things as utility purposes. You can use choice specs. It can hit like a truck, and it doesn't have it does have decent stats all across the board, except for physicality, as the attack, physical attack, and then physical defenses. I think it's sitting at 65. The HP not too far off. So always take a look at Gardevoir. Gardevoir is a good pick, and I would always look at that. And then lastly, so last week we talked about kind of what waivers should pick up. No one picked Landers Eye, or Landers Incarnate, which was my stupid pick, but shout out to Celadon City with their coach Kaylee Relich, who got the Impact Claim of the Week. And for those of you who don't know, she took about half, almost, yeah, no, just 2 months off the waiver wire, and also mods we showcased in our previous episode. And Pelipper and Tornado, she also picked up Sidesman Toad as well, so she's a full rain team. Not a full team rain team, but she can switch on and off, and she's utilized that especially well. If you look at her match against Saffron, she lost 3-0, but that match was really close, and she didn't use the rain team. She didn't use it, so she has the ability to switch on and off from it, which is great. It's fantastic. But the claim of the week, honestly, it goes to Tornadus. It already has 2 kills and 1 death, so it's already seen action. It's already killed a lot. It's been launching hurricanes. And they still have some matches to finish, actually, if I'm not mistaken. They're playing Vermilion. They still have to play Pallet Town. I know there was a dispute whether or not they played this week, but I'm looking at it right now. So Pallet Town is going to play, and they got to play Vermilion as well. So she's just... Kaylee and the Celadon City FC still have 2 games to play, so we could see Tornadus actually impact the team even more, and possibly even more kills, as she hasn't played her full thing. She's only brought along for a couple. If we look for the rest of her team real fast to kind of give us a little picture, the next leading one is Jolteon, but it has 4 total deaths, 1 passive, 1 active, and the next one is Kyron B. So this is the only mon with a positive differential, which is really important, as she's utilizing it effectively to sweep and kind of push, give that last little push to kind of close out games. We saw her use it really effectively against Lavender Town, as it just cleaned shop with Heat Wave, Superpower, Hurricane, and Defog, I believe. Or no, it's Tailwind. She ran Tailwind. So this thing is scary. In a rain team, it's scary. Doesn't have to use it every time that she brings rain. She can use it when she's not using rain. There's other options. However, I would typically want to run it in rain, as base 140 Hurricane is no laughing matter. So shout outs to Celadon City FC, their coach Kaylee Relich, for picking up Celadon, for picking up Tornadus Incarnate, as that was a great pickup. So that is it for our for episode 2, for week 2 of the Masters Battle League. This is Nathaniel Shook signing out. I thank you all for tuning in to the MBL Waiver Focus And I look forward to talking with you all again and updating you when Wednesday midnight at 12 a.m. rolls around and we get more waiver claims and maybe potential trades going through. As this is the, I believe, second to last week. I'm not sure. We're going to see. Trades do end this week, so hopefully we'll see one more trade or two. But we'll keep our eyes open and we'll give you guys the updates when they come rolling in. We'll talk to you guys again on Wednesday. See you soon.